Hey, what's up everybody? Wes here with Consumers Authority. Thanks for tuning in for another video. Today is going to be real simple. I'm going to show you how to test your water in a freshwater aquarium with this API Master Test Kit. If you have a saltwater tank, don't worry. They do make this in a marine version. I'll have links for both in the description. But this is something that you're going to want to do weekly to make sure that the inhabitants of your tank are happy and healthy. It couldn't be easier to do, but I do have a couple of tips and tricks for you to make sure that you can test as accurately as possible. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into it.
All right, so my first tip is to get an acrylic holder or some sort of a test tube holder just like this one. I picked this one up off of Amazon and I'll throw a link in the description. It's definitely going to be very handy for you instead of placing the vials on a table. Eventually I've knocked a few over myself. They're pretty easy to break. So the second tip on top of the holder would be to buy additional test tubes, and they're also available online. Now, when you're doing your test, you're going to have to fill your vials to the 5 milliliter line, and I've found I've had really good success in doing that straight from my Tidal 55 water filter here. Maybe you have the same filter, you might have the same success. But if you don't have this filter or yours doesn't work like that, you could also get these coral feeders off of Amazon. I actually got this as a 2-pack, and you can just draw the water out and put it straight into the vial. And here you can see the size difference in the two. I've actually got a pretty tall tank. I've got a 37-gallon tall, and here's the longer of the two tubes, and it almost reaches the bottom with the lid on. And this thing is also great for sucking out pest snails, feeding any kind of frozen or live shrimp, as well as drawing the water out for these water tests. So I definitely highly recommend these coral feeders. And just so you can see it in action, I've got the shorter of the two feeders, and we'll go ahead and fill up the rest of our vials. And we just kind of take it straight from the tank and just drip it in. It does have a little bit of a back drip. Once you go ahead and start squeezing it, you just want to stop a little shy of the line, because when you let off, it might let an extra drop or two out, but it's definitely super easy. And any water you don't use, you just put it right back into the tank. So this is going to be your best option for filling your tubes. And another tip I've got for you is for when you overfill your tubes, like you see on the far left. A good way to get that out, because sometimes when you tilt the tube over, it puts too much out or too little, is to just take a piece of paper towel. If you use the flat side, you're just going to take a little water out, but if you put it on the end, it'll soak up quite a bit more in a lot faster of a time frame. And just a couple of dabs, we've got this back to where it needs to be. So using a little piece of paper towel is going to help you get your 5 milliliter line no problem. So now we're going to run through the tests that you're going to want to perform weekly, and we're going to start off here with the pH solution. I give every bottle a good shake, and if you open it and there's any fluid on the outside, wipe that off and then use the recommended amount of drops. For the pH, it's 3 drops. Secure your cap on there and give it a good shake, and then you're going to look at your color here and then compare it to the chart that's with your kit. And I went ahead and outlined a acceptable range of pH. Depending on your type of fish, this may not be the same for you, but this just happens to be the case that I'm dealing with. And it looks like I'm right in a good range. I'm below 7.6, so I'm happy with that. Now, if it had been the dark blue color, I would have had to switch over to the high range pH solution, give that a shake, and then do the 5 drops. But we'll go ahead and test it here just to show you how it works. It's the same process. Just put in the drops that are on the bottle and then cap it up and give it a good shake, and you'll check your color. But on this one here, I'm on the low end of the high range section. So technically, I wouldn't even have used this to begin with. But if you're maxed out on your pH and it's really dark blue, you'll want to switch over here and use this high range to see what your actual pH is. And the second test that we're going to do today is a 2-part. This is going to be very important. It's our ammonia test, and this has got 2 bottles. So bottle number 1 and bottle number 2, and we're going to add 8 drops of each bottle, starting with number 1. Now, what you can do, you can put your 8 drops in your first one and shake it, but I found there's really no need. But definitely mix each bottle up good. Put your 8 drops of each in. Once you've got them mixed up, then you'll want to go ahead and cap your vial and give it a really good shake, about 5 or 6 seconds. And then on this one, you're going to have to wait 5 minutes for results on the color. And for any kind of aquarium, what you're really looking for is 0 ammonia. And I've got that marked out here. After 5 minutes, we're still yellow, so we're definitely good to go on that. So the next test is going to be nitrite, and we're going to do it very similar to the pH because it's just 1 bottle, but we're going to give it a good shake just like the rest and put our 5 drops in here. After we get our 5 drops in, we'll cap it up and give it a good shake. And what we're looking for is just a really light blue color. That means that we have 0 nitrites. We really don't want any kind of nitrites in the tank, much like the ammonia. We want both of those at 0. The only time you're going to see nitrites or ammonia is when you're actually cycling your tank. And if you haven't looked up the nitrogen cycle, definitely check that out. All right, so the last test that we're going to perform is a nitrate test. It's a 2-part, much like the ammonia. We're going to take our first bottle here, give it a really good shake, and we're going to add 10 drops of this solution into the last vial. And then we'll do the same thing with bottle number 2. Nitrates are the last step in the nitrogen cycle that I referenced earlier. Basically, what the nitrogen cycle is that your fish are going to produce waste, which is ammonia. And since they don't like ammonia, you'll have bacteria growing in your aquarium that turns that ammonia into nitrites. And then eventually you'll have nitrite eating bacteria that turns that into nitrates. And that is the cycle, the ammonia to nitrite to nitrate. And the only way to get rid of that nitrate is to put in plants that will absorb it or to get it out via water changes. Now that we've got this thing shaken up for a whole minute, we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we're going to compare it to our card on the master test kit. Obviously yellow is going to be fantastic, but anything under 20 is great as well. Some people will say less than 40, but I just err on the side of caution. And if you see orange, you're good. If you start to see red, go ahead and get that water changed out as quickly as possible. A couple of other tests that you might want to pick up are your GH and KH. That's your general hardness and carbonate hardness tests. And this is very important if you're going to be keeping snails, shrimp, things like that prefer a high carbonate hardness. But it's just an extra couple of tests that you can pick up very cheaply online. But I'd highly recommend, if anything else, getting a acrylic holder and some extra tubes because they do break, and it's just good to have extras on hand. If you have any questions about this setup, feel free to leave those in the comments, or if you have any questions in general about this whole video, feel free to leave those below. I enjoy hearing from you guys, and I like to answer comments as quickly as possible. But until the next video, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope to see you on the next one. All right, peace.